This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm going to start with the name of her coaching practice because I think it says it all right there. Uncaged Love Life Coaching. She's radically different than most coaches in that she's not trying to change your mind and the way you think initially. It's more about what you're feeling. And we're going to talk about that today because emotions and feelings are everything in changing your life. Joining us on the program, Josie Trnka is with us. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderfully, Steve. How are you?
Really good. Lots to talk about today. I'm actually going to change this up. Instead of getting into what you do, I want your story. I want your why. What got you here in terms of wanting to help people move their life forward?
So I've always been really passionate and interested in personal growth and development. And that's something that I took part in on a daily level. I was fortunate to do coaching and facilitation through my corporate job. And that's really where I discovered my love for helping others grow and develop. And then it was my own personal self-love journey that I went on over the past couple of years that really inspired me to create my program to help others and share that with them. Because I found when I was looking for material on how do you actually live out self-love every day, I really couldn't find anything. It was kind of surface level stuff. So that's why I created my program. And I'm just so excited to be able to share that with everyone.
Love it. Would you say that the one thing that is missing in moving our lives forward is that we don't look at ourselves, even in a mirror, and say, I love you? Like, who does that? I've heard from others that if they do that, they'll cry. Like, they just can't. And there's many different reasons why. You know, the beliefs that we have, our childhood, even your childhood could have been great, but there's some things there that prevent us from being able to accept ourselves. Do you think before anything happens here that anything really, really productive and breakthrough oriented, you got to love yourself?
Absolutely. I have found that it is the foundation of any real lasting change in your life.
Why is it so hard?
Well, for the reasons that you mentioned, childhood trauma, I think a lot of it is societal conditioning, especially in today's day and age. We're really conditioned to seek external validation. We're conditioned to change our appearance or please other people to fit in, and then we'll feel liked and loved. I think it comes down to the fact that no one's really even been taught how to love themselves. It's not something we talk about. It's not something that we teach. And I think that a lot of people are actually really afraid to go on the journey and confront what they need to confront to really get down to the nitty gritty of what's going to get them to that state where they can embody self-love.
I agree with you 100%. And we often hear that, if you want to really love somebody, you have to love yourself first. It starts with you. You can't do it the way you should be doing it unless you truly love yourself. But nobody tells you how to do it. Where's the manual? Where can I log on? Where do I find that? And then there's also, I believe, another component, and that I think self-love and self-care kind of ride together in some ways, where we feel guilty. We feel guilty about giving ourselves attention. We don't want to be that person with an ego. Oh, look at them. He really loves himself. Good. But until you realize it, you have that mentality, that mindset, or the guilt. Like, I should be focusing on others. I should be taking care of others. And then there are many of us who are people pleasers. So we take the focus off ourselves. And the people pleaser thing, I feel, goes right back to what we're talking about in terms of, your childhood, where that comes from. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you 100%. And it's really incredible to me how most people don't realize we are literally the one person that we are responsible for taking care of.
Mm,
We're responsible for taking care of ourselves. We are responsible for loving ourselves, for meeting our own needs. But everyone just thinks about, well, I have to take care of this other person. I have to take this other person happy. But you don't create more love in your life by seeking it from others. You create more love in your life by being loving and living that out every day. And that has to come from within.
mm. My hard lesson, maybe you'll agree, others may, if you've, been on a journey, no one is going to take care of you better than yourself. No one is ever going to let you down yourself. You're just not. Um, but like you said, we seek it from others. We seek it from others. When, Josie, when was the moment that you realized that I love myself? Wow.
Well, I've had a lot of points on my journey where I felt, I knew I'd made some progress. But I would say it was late last year after I went on a phenomenal transformative retreat
Mm,
where I had done enough work and I'd changed my beliefs enough about myself. I lived out my values-based actions enough every day where it was just like, wow, I look in the mirror and I love the person that I see. I don't judge my body anymore. I am feeling joy every day when I wake up, just so grateful to be alive and for what I have in my life.
mm.
It took some time. It's not an easy thing to overcome because it's a very deep-seated issue for most of us,
Yep.
but it is possible and it's incredible when you finally have that.
Give me some words to describe what that feels like when you've gotten to that point and you see your life start changing, that you feel love for yourself. How would you describe it?
I would describe it as freedom and joy and peace, like that
Mm,
inner peace, so
mm.
important. And also, it's very powerful when you truly love yourself and you're not depending on anyone else for approval, for that love, for that sense of fulfillment. It's so incredibly empowering when you can give that to yourself.
You don't know until you know. I think that's the way it is.
You don't. And like I said, there are times on my journey where I felt like, okay, this is it. And then it just kept getting better.
I'm not very like deeply religious, but I would go to church even as a kid, and they would say, peace be with you, peace be with you, peace be with you. Honestly, I'd walk out of there and I'm like, what are they even talking about? As an adult, I said, this peace thing, yeah, peace. Well, what are you talking about? But I would just go along with it. Peace, yeah, peace be with you too. Until I figured it out. I don't have any peace in my life. Very minimal. and, and then once you start doing the work, then you realize what this thing peace is, what this thing freedom really is. And I got you on the epiphany. I think it was, maybe two years ago at the very most. I was at the gym and I was just, listening through playlists and a song comes on. I've heard the song before. And I'm not deeply into the song or, the Doors and Touch Me. And it's like an old school song. And I always heard that song and I always thought that what a great song to sing to somebody else. I'm gonna love you to the stars, till the stars fall from the sky. I'm gonna love you for you and I. I can't sing. But it was at that moment that I was like, OMG, that song's for me. That's for me. Oh, wow. Okay. It wasn't for somebody else. It was me sending it to myself in a way that I thought of it. I could tell you where I was at the gym at that moment. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, now it just finally crystallized this whole thing. Um, do you feel that changing your mindset is important and impactful and you got to do it, to move your life forward, but you really can't really do it the way you should unless you feel that love for yourself.
Yes. And also taking the correct action is really what's most important. Because if you want significant real change in your life, it always comes down to you actually having to do a thing. And so adjusting your mindset or your thoughts to make it easier to do the thing, like that's definitely helpful. But if you sit around and just wait for your thoughts to change or your mindset to change, it's not really going to work. You have to actually start doing the thing. And what's incredible is our beliefs and our subconscious take cues from our actions.
Hmm.
So your thoughts and mindset will actually shift to match after you started taking action to love yourself. So it's not mindset first, then take action. Action first, mindset naturally shifts.
Never thought of it that way. Yeah. It's and your subconscious is always listening, even when you're
Mhm.
sleeping. Yeah. So it's almost like it's taking a cue from you when you start practicing those things that can give you that feeling of love for yourself. What are your suggestions? Like a starting point. Somebody hears this, they're watching, they're thinking, ah, I need a coach, but what are some of the things that somebody can do, somebody can feel to start that journey?
Absolutely. So, my recommendation is that you identify your core values. And so, it's important to note like that these are your values, not your parents, not friends, not society, not your partner. And then you say, what do these values look like lived out every day? So, if one of my values is love, what does it look like to bring love to every situation that I am experiencing that day? Or what does integrity look like? What does authenticity look like? And the
Mm,
reason I suggest this is because when you're facing trying to do change in your life, you have to have some type of foundation or something to come back to check in and measure what you're dealing with up against that. And so if you start living out your actions based on your values, and then also examine how can I take the things that I'm doing in my day and turn them into an act of self love? Something as simple as brushing your teeth or showering or deciding to go to the gym. These can be considered self love actions because they're things you're doing to take care of yourself. You're saying, I love you enough to do this for you.
wow. I totally got you. It- 5 years ago, a gym opened 800 feet from this building and big, beautiful gym. It's awesome. I would go in there, I would get on the treadmill. 12 minutes later, I would get off because I started feeling guilty. I got to go to work. Got to make, family, blah, 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 blah. And I would leave almost every day because I wasn't at that point where I was taking care of myself. I've had guilt. I had guilt.
Mhm.
Um, when you've been programmed or by other people or you allowed it or your childhood, it's hard to break out of that non-self-love routine, isn't it?
It's very hard, especially when so many people don't even realize that it can be different. They just think this is how it is, this is how it has to be. And I was very fortunate to have some people come into my life and say, like, hey, did you know that it doesn't have to be like that?
Mm,
Did you know that you can actually take that belief about yourself and change it
yep.
and completely transform your life in the meantime? I mean, things that may not seem like a huge deal in ways that I transformed my life were incredible for me. To go from being a horrible person in the morning, thinking I'm not a morning person, I created this morning routine for myself that I do every day that just it sets my day off completely right. No matter what I'm going through, it's there. It helps me reset. So there's just things you can do, times that you can take to yourself throughout the day. It doesn't even have to be like this huge chunk of time, but just those small actions, even if you just start in a small action, that can be an incredible thing to build upon.
I want to tell you that you inspired me just by hearing you, looking at you, and I'm going to tell you right now, feeling your energy. You inspired me to change up my morning routine and make it even more fun. I'm not even kidding. Like I'm going to change it up tomorrow. Um, it's okay. I have a gratitude journal. I do things here and there, but I'm gonna. intentionally wake up earlier and just make it even better. And just what you said, well, I'm not a morning person. If you say that, you're not. You're telling yourself you're
Exactly.
not. It's the same thing as your day starts, you spill coffee. Ah, I spilled coffee. All right, it sucks. I get it. Clean it up, but don't say what else is going to happen today. What a start to the day, because your day is going to go like that. You ask for it, you're going to get it.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned getting up earlier and then now wanting to get up even earlier because that's a question I see a lot of people struggle with. Like,
Mm,
well, where do I find the time to do this? Especially like busy moms. I have to get up in the morning and take care of my kids. I
yeah.
get it. I'm a single mom, but I get up before my child gets up. So I have that time for myself to do whatever is needed. So I'm in the right place for when she gets up in the day. And that also looks like doing what you need to do the night before so you can make sure you have a stellar morning when you wake up the
Mm,
next day. So I also have an evening routine that I do, which I feel is equally as important. I'm starting and I'm ending my days in self-love, and it truly makes me feel like every day was
mm. Isn't it a habit? Like I'm finding myself, and I write commitments down to myself, and one of them is getting up earlier. Sort of sticking to it. I need to do better, be more intentional at it. But I'm finding myself just automatically waking up earlier because I'm getting into the habit of it. Got to get into the habit of going to bed a little bit earlier. Um, but once you start doing it, you do it. You gotta just do it. Make the plan, write
fine.
it down, whatever it might be. Um, in this journey for you, finding love, then eventually adjusting the way you think. What do you think was the biggest challenge with all of this?
The biggest challenge for me was uncovering my subconscious beliefs that were really holding me back because it's really our subconscious beliefs that are generally driving the self-sabotaging behaviors. So I was doing all these things to try to embody self-love, but I kept getting stuck. Um,
Mm,
and so I went into my past to examine again, what were these things that happened that made me create this story that I wasn't worthy of love? And then I had to go through each person that I was still resenting in my life for making me feel like I wasn't worthy of love and address that. And that was very, very emotionally difficult, but it was the most transformative part of my experience. I sat down with my parents and I had this incredible, just raw conversation talking about like, here's things that happened in my childhood that I felt led to me not feeling worthy of love, and not to blame them, but to say, hey, what was it like for you? What was going on here? And to have them tell me that they loved me even before I was born, that they let me do what I wanted because they loved me so much. I mean, it was just the opposite of, what I had created in my child mind, right? But I still remember the moment I got home after that conversation with them, and I just cried because I said, I can let this go now. I can let go the belief that I'm not worthy of love. And so it's
mm,
typically, I think, examining that past stuff and learning how to really heal from it and truly let it go, forgive others and forgive yourself.
mm.
That's a tough part of the journey, but it is so worth
You said the F word. And I was eventually
it.
wanted to
Forgiveness.
get to that forgiveness. And, parents, we're both parents. We parent based on, and our parents and their parents based on how they were parented. And they don't know any better. We I like to think that on these journeys that you're on, I'm on, that we've realized things and then that might change a little bit the way you parent. Would you say that's a little, things have changed a little bit in terms of the way you
Oh,
speak, right?
1,000%. And I actually actively took on changing my parenting style as part of my journey because I realized the impact that I have on my child is significant as far as what I'm going through and the example I'm leading. But she was also struggling a couple of years ago too. And I said, well, maybe the problem is actually me and how I'm parenting. And I was fortunate enough to read this incredible book by Gary John Bishop. He's a huge mentor of mine, that talks about how you can move out of your beliefs that you came to when you were being parented. And he gives you a framework for how to parent in a different way. There were some other books I read as well to help, but I feel that a person cannot go through a self-love journey as a parent and not end up changing how they parent their own children. And the change that I saw in her after I did that was phenomenal.
Mm, yeah. I totally know what you're saying. And I even think back to my youngest is 17, but I think back to, when they were very young. And I'm a goofy dad. I come up with little like goofy nicknames. Nothing bad, just fun. But I look at it now as they could have internalized that as a negative. Well, dad's calling me a name. He's not calling me by my name, but it's just in fun. I look at that, things like that. I would have adjusted, just be more aware of how a little mind could be internalizing something. But you don't know again till as you go on that journey. Would you say that forgiveness, part of all of this, yourself, others, maybe your parents, is a key aspect of making the change in self-love?
Absolutely, because a lot of people's actions are driven by the resentment that they're still carrying around.
Mm.
And if you can't let that resentment go, whether it's towards others or yourself, I do think it is difficult to move on. And it was interesting that it took me going through this process of forgiving all the people that I knew I needed to. And then I was like, wait a minute, I have to forgive myself too.
Mm.
And that was the toughest part, because I'd been betraying myself almost my entire life. I'd been doing these behaviors that I didn't take good care of myself.
Yeah.
I was stuck in self-sabotaging. It was awful, but forgiveness it's a huge aspect of healing and enacting guilt.
The forgiveness thing is huge. And I didn't have a close relationship with my dad. My parents got divorced, when I was very, very, very young. I went on a retreat last year, and part of the retreat, and was all men. And there was one part where they said, all right, we're going to talk about your father. All of you, the 300 men in the room. And that you need to thank your father for the things that he taught you, whether you like him or not, and forgive and move forward. And we all refer to ourselves as by our last name to honor our father. So I did that. I thought about it. And then I had like the epiphany the last day of the retreat. And my dad passed when I was 21 suddenly. So there's a lot of, unresolved stuff. The last day of the retreat, I realized it was his birthday. And I was like, ew, all right. I don't believe that was a coincidence for me. But it was finally, a little bit of closure to move forward with forgiveness and life in general. I love what you do. I love your approach to it. I've talked to a lot of life coaches. They don't focus on the self-love thing, which is so important, once you figure this all out. How do we connect with you? If somebody wants to even have a conversation, maybe start a journey of change, how do they do that?
They can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Uncaged Love Coaching. So they can direct message me on there. They can also reach me directly via email at uncagedlovelifecoaching@gmail.com.
Again, I love that name. It's like we're all in this cage that we put ourselves in, essentially, based on everything.
1,000%.
Right? And get out of the cage. Get out of the cage. And what does it take? The thing that we all want, love. And you got it because you got you. Josie, thank you so much for today. Really appreciate everything you said. And thanks you for being transparent on your journey. And looking forward if we get a chance to talk again.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you having me. It was a joy to talk.
Likewise. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.